Why would I want to try to figure out something on my own when somebody else has already figured it out? You have to learn how to make multiple streams of income. 23, by the time I hit 30 years old, I already saved over $1 million in cash just because of principles that I apply. Do you need $1 million? Do you need 2 million? Do you need $500,000? What's the target? And if you don't have a target, then you're never going to have a plan to get there. And what I find is a lot of people, they're looking for shortcuts, but there is no shortcut to success. It requires a lot of work. You know, in my industry, I always say the first $50,000 a year you earn is the hardest $50,000.
All right. Hello. Today we have Victor Wong, an Instagram connection and author of Fortune Favours the Bull.
Looking forward to it. How are you?
Good, brother. How are you?
Good. Always good. Always good to spend time with you.
Amazing. So tell me about yourself, sort of. I have my first question is, you've been in the financial service industry for over a decade. What sparked your passion for finance and entrepreneurship?
Good question. So I actually didn't have any background in finance or business. And growing up, I actually studied to be a chiropractor. Because, you know, Asian parents, they say go to school, become a doctor or a lawyer or an engineer. So I thought I'll be a chiropractor. And when I graduated from school, I came across a book called Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. And the book, he said he has two fathers. One dad is poor and one dad is rich. And the poor dad says, hey, son, go to school, get good grades, get a good job and save money. And then the rich dad said exactly the same thing, but he said you have to learn how to make multiple streams of income. And at that moment, it dawned on me that I'm born in this country, I have a pretty good education, but I don't know anything about money or finance, anything about investments or insurance or assets or passive income. And then my dad, he introduced me to the financial industry. He says, hey, you should probably check out the part-time training program. Worst case scenario is you learn how to manage your finances better, your money better. So I thought, okay, I kept my job. I kept going to school. I learned the financial industry just for my own benefit, because I've learned early on that the best person with your best interest is always yourself. So the more I learned, I started to apply financial principles to myself. And then long story short, at 23, by the time I hit 30 years old, I already saved over $1 million in cash just because of principles that I apply over the last couple of years. So long story short, I got my licenses and then I started helping my friends and family just part-time. But my part-time income replaced my full-time job. And I was making a six-figure income on part-time hours. So I didn't have to go back to finish my master's. I just continued on financial services. And then now we have offices across Canada and expanding into the US. So that's kind of how I got started in the journey in the financial services industry.
You started at the age of 23.
That's right.
And you are the owner and founder of this company?
Mm-hmm. So I'm the broker per se, and we run teams across North America. So I would be responsible for recruiting, agent development, agent training, as well as helping serve my own clients as well.
How do you approach the process of helping a family? Like, what are some key questions or steps that you go over to really see what angle you need to approach this problem per se?
Yeah, so the approach is quite simple. The first step is we got to know where you are today and where you will be if you kept doing what you're doing, or areas that I can help you improve on. And we do 6 steps. So the first step is we want to help you budget, cash flow management. And then second step is debt management. What if you have some consumer debts or Visa card or car loans? And if you have high consumer debt, then you're probably not saving money. Then we want to start helping you create an emergency fund, all right, just on a rainy day. Then we want to make sure you have proper protection in case if you got sick or got injured, where are you going to get your money coming from? So proper protection. The 5th is how to outpace inflation or how to grow your money. And 6 is really estate planning. So we call it the financial needs analysis, where we look at where you are today and where you will be, We'll be calculating things like your FIN number, which is your financial independence number. A lot of people, they save money, but they really don't know how much money they have to save at a certain age to retire. Do you need $1 million? Do you need 2 million? Do you need $500,000? What's the target? And if you don't have a target, then you're never going to have a plan to get there. So we want to kind of show them a before and after, and then we'll give them some areas that we can help them improve on, either by diversifying their portfolio or making more money or looking at areas that maybe they haven't thought about yet.
What are some of the trends that you've seen in the past, maybe couple of years or maybe like 10 years that it seems to be interesting to you?
In terms of my business or in terms of the industry?
Trends in terms of industry and also in terms of your business. Let's go like one and then the other.
Yeah, so one thing I've learned in business is the number one economic crisis in the world right now that affects over 4.2 billion people. It's not Donald Trump. It's not the Canadian election. It's not the pandemic. It's not your job. The number one economic crisis is a lack of financial literacy or financial illiteracy. You see, a lot of people, they know how to make money. Everybody can find a job. Everybody can save money. But a lot of people don't know what to do with their money, where to allocate it, where to put it, how our tax system works in our country. So that's the number one economic crisis. Then you look at a concept called the baby boomers. Have you heard of that before, the baby boomers?
Yes. So they're like a generation that are home, like they own homes and stuff like that. And then there's Gen Z, which is us. And
so in business, they say whatever the baby boomers touch turns into gold. So the baby boomers was a period of time between 1946 and 1964. During this time in North America, 90 million babies were born. Before this time, 30 million. After 64, 30 million. Well, what happened was in 1945, World War II just ended. And all the soldiers came back, and then a lot of babies were born, all right? And in 1946, there's a company called Gerber's Baby Food. And Gerber's Baby Food did 3 million, they sold 3 million jars that year of baby food. All of a sudden, it wasn't 3 million jars a year. It started to be $3 million in revenue per month. And it's not because the baby food got better. It's because the supply and demand of babies needing food, that's why that industry started to explode. Then you have the toy industry, your G.I. Joe, your Barbies, your Mattel. That industry started to take off. We might have noticed that Toys R Us in the US just recently went bankrupt. It's not because the toys aren't good nowadays. It's because the timing is a little bit off, where now young adults like us, we're not having 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 kids like how my parents' generation was. Then you have the fast food industry. McDonald's is a really good example of them understanding the baby boomers. When I was growing up, if you remember, McDonald's was tailored toward children. You walk into a McDonald's, it was Ronald McDonald, and then they had that stomach open, and then you would buy a Happy Meal, and then you pick your toys. Then afterwards, you would do on the slides, and you go in the ball pen, and that was 15, 20 years ago. Now, McDonald's has rebranded to McCafe. You start to see TVs, muffins, coffee, salad, and now it's the baby boomers hanging out at McDonald's. Then you have the car industry that happened after. Then you have the real estate industry. So back then there's a company called Remax, and Remax, they saw this huge wave of baby boomers entering the marketplace to buy real estate, and they became a household name. And now they say that every 7 seconds a baby boomer turns 65. Now they're not thinking about baby food, they're not thinking about cars, they're thinking about their retirement. They're thinking about their future. They're thinking about can they pass on their wealth from one generation to the next. And the problem that we see today is these baby boomers, they've accumulated so much money during their lifetime, and when it gets inherited to our generation, we really don't know anything about money and finance. So I saw a big need in the marketplace where everybody needs financial literacy. So how I position my business is, we're not there to sell people a product or sell people an investment. really there to provide education and awareness about mortgages, about insurance, about investments, about pension, about investing in general, and seeing if we can bridge that gap. So that's kind of how the last 5-10 years, I've noticed that a lot of people want to learn more about money and finance for themselves. They want to invest in themselves. And the number one investment you could ever make is not in real estate. It's not in the stock market. The best investment you could ever make is really in yourself. So that's where a lot of people, that's what they're looking at now.
How do you approach this problem for yourself? Like, is there certain principles that you follow or you tell others to follow to get to their goal faster?
Yeah. So there's two points in that. I read a quote once by a guy named Elon Musk, and he said, the moment you realize it's easier to make $10,000 than to save $10,000, your life will change. So a lot of times with my clients, we're talking about budgeting, paying yourself first before you pay everybody else. But when I look at the overall situation of Canadian families or Canadian households, we don't have a making money problem. We have a we don't make enough money problem, meaning we don't earn enough money. And if we don't earn enough money, then we can't save and accumulate our assets quickly. So a couple things that I've seen is some financial principles is paying yourself first before you pay anyone else. That needs to be a given. Every paycheck you receive, it doesn't matter if it's $25 or $50 that you can allocate, put it into an account where you can't see it. But you want to make sure that it's growing and outpacing inflation. So be investing in proper things like a great ETF or a great mutual fund, depending on their risk tolerance, and then just saving every single week. And over time, you'll see your money grow. So from the client standpoint, it's really knowing where you are today and what your goals are. Everybody has different goals. Some of us might want to start a family. Some of us might want to buy real estate. Some of us want to start a business. But it all starts with very simple principles of knowing where you are now and where you will be. On the flip side, on the business side, I would say that finding a great mentor. A great mentor will speed up the process. I give the analogy of not having a mentor and walking through the minefield. Right? So just imagine you're walking through a field of mines. And a mine is, if you step on it, you blow up pretty much. So a mentor has already walked the minefield. They dodge the bullets. They dodge the bombs. They know what works, what doesn't work. They know how to handle objections. They know what is trending, what is not trending. And all you need to do is find a great mentor that is willing to coach you, mentor you, and guide you. And the unique thing about mentorship is there's tons of mentors out there. But the mentor doesn't seek the mentee seeks the mentor. They say when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. So a lot of us, especially in our generation and the younger generation, is we want to find people that can guide us and mentor us, but it takes an initiative for you to go do so. So I would say that seeking a mentor is probably the most important thing, and finding an industry or a platform that has potential to grow is also very important.
Hey, real quick, if you're still here, this is clearly resonating with you, so I'm asking for a quick favor. Right now, over 99% of people watching aren't subscribed. It takes 2 seconds by hitting subscribe and like, tells the platform that this is worth spreading. And by doing so, that helps us bring better guests and continue delivering high quality content. Also, if you know just one person that would get value from this, send this to them right now. That's how this show grows. It's person to person, no ads and no algorithms. So, like, subscribe, and share this to someone that you care about. It means the world to me, and it truly makes all the difference. All right, let's get back to the good stuff. Yes, I agree. Okay, let's walk through your book. What inspired you to write a book, and can you touch on what was the process of writing it and what's in it? Really, just like a summary.
Yeah, so the book was actually not on my radar at all. It was during the pandemic in 2020. And at that time, obviously, we had COVID and nobody's doing anything. And then someone reached out to me. It's like, hey, you know what? The world's ending anyways. You might as well write a book. And I was like, I guess the world's ending anyways. Might as well write a book and have something, right? So then I got connected with a publisher in the United States, and they asked me what would I write about. And at that time, it really wasn't on my radar. I had never thought about writing a book. It didn't cross my mind. It just wasn't something I would want to do or ever do. And then I just blurbed it out, Fortune favors the bull. And he said, what do you mean by that? And I said, you see, a lot of people, they want to be successful. They want to make a great living. They want to have abundance and freedom and wealth and all these great things, but they really don't have the principles or the mindset to become wealthy. You see, the 90% of our life is why, 10% is how. And what I did was I used principles that have worked for me, and I put it onto a book. So for example, principles like you got to act on the speed of instruction. Principles like you got to know what you want, and you got to know how to get it. Principles like everything you do and everything you don't do affects not just you, but everyone around you. So I started to apply life principles into the book and then put it together with the publisher, with the writer. I had help, obviously, because writing's not my forte. So I had help. I put ideas, and then my writer helped me. And then long story short, 1.5 years later, it got published. And now I can pick it up at Amazon or at Barnes and Nobles or whatever it is. So,
is there someone in this world that you look up to? Is there someone that sort of guided you to the way that you think? Or is there like maybe you picked something from here, you picked something from there, or is there someone that stands out?
Yeah. In my life, I've had a lot of great mentors, so I was very blessed with that. And one thing about me is I will always seek mentorship, because why would I want to try to figure out something on my own when somebody else has already figured it out? But here's the difference is a lot of people, we ask for help or we ask someone for something, but we don't act on it. So one thing about me is if I'm going to seek mentorship, I'm willing to go out of my way to find a mentor, and then I'm going to make sure I bring value to the relationship. And obviously then they'll coach me or mentor me, and then I want to produce results. So a couple of mentors that come to mind, I would say the biggest one would be my parents, right? So I've seen them come to this country, start a business, and the work ethics, the discipline, the mindset, it's not taught nowadays. The previous generation, they've worked 7 days a week. They had mental discipline. They had physical discipline. They did whatever it took, right? Whatever it took to get things done. Nowadays, unfortunately, a lot of us, our generation we believe that it should be given to us, right? We don't have to work so hard. Work-life balance, So the times are very different. So a lot of it came from my parents' work ethics. And for me, I've always had that mindset where you want to be in a position one day where you work because you want to, not because you have to. Well, it comes with some sacrifice. You can't just hope and pray that one day you'll be successful in whatever you do. You got to put in the work. A lot of us, we watch the NBA right now as an example, and you watch a guy like, Steph Curry. You watch him play the game, and you see how great he is during the game, but do you know how many hours he puts every single day when nobody's watching? And that really determines if someone makes it or doesn't make it. And what I find is a lot of people, they're looking for shortcuts, but there is no shortcut to success. It requires a lot of work, a lot of development. In my industry, I always say the first $50,000 a year you earn is the hardest $50,000. Why? It's because you're building your skill set. But to make $100,000 per year, it's all just discipline, showing up every single day, even when you don't feel like it. That's what discipline is. And then to make multiple six figures or $500,000 or $1 million per year, it's not so much about work ethics now or your skill set. It's more about your ability to scale your business. So how do you scale your business to make seven-figure income is what the difference lies.
How do you handle distractions? In this world, I feel like people are so distracted with many various things, and how do you come about handling that and managing that?
Yeah, so distractions it's a thing, right? We have social media, we have all these things going on in our life. But one tip I could give for everybody is you run your day by your calendar, not by how you feel. So everything I do is in my calendar. The time I wake up is in my calendar. My first meetings are in my calendar. So every morning at 8:45, I do what I call the daily call with my guys, with my team. So by 8:30, I'm in the office. But before 8:30, I got to prep for my call, right? So you run your day by your calendar, not by how you feel. So that includes lunch, dinner, gym, working out, appointments. So I don't believe in what they call work-life balance, because you're never going to have balance in your life. It's always going to be imbalanced, and we all have different seasons in our life. For example, I don't have kids, but when I do have kids, I know that will take up some time as well. So you can't have balance in your life. It's all about being disciplined, doing the things that you need to do, or doing the things that you say you're going to do, and making sure that you deliver on it. Don't be someone that says something and then you don't deliver, right? So I've always been, if I say I'm going to do something, you better believe that I will deliver. So that's kind of discipline required.
Boom. Exactly. Your TEDx talk uses the bull as a metaphor. It highlights how applying the bull's courage and determination can help us achieve our goals. Can you touch on your talk and sort of how did that come about?
Yeah, so TEDx it was during the pandemic as well. So I think it was in 2022 where how it works is someone has to nominate you. And then the organizers would reach out to you and interview what you want to talk about. So then, like I said, I never planned to be on a TED Talk. It's not something on my agenda. But I get a phone call and they said, hey, we got your name and your phone number. We'd love to do an interview to see if you're a great fit for this chapter or for our TED Talks. And I said, oh, okay, sure. I didn't think much about it. And they said, what would you talk about? And I just blurted out the same thing I blurted out the first time, is fortune favors the bull. And I talked about success principles as well. And if you want to watch it on YouTube or on the TED website, it's on there. But I talked about principles again, right? Act on the speed of instructing. Act in spite of fear. I think a lot of us were fearful to go do something, but fear is really a false evidence appearing real. The things that we fear never really happen. And my reasons are stronger than my fears. So throughout that chapter during the TED Talks, it's just about success principles that have helped me get to where I am, the mindset and the discipline. And to be very honest, you look at someone that's very successful. You put them in any industry. It could be a restaurant industry, could be real estate, could be anything. And you'll find that successful people, they have the same mentality. It's a mindset. It's a mindset to never give up. It's a mindset to add value. It's a mindset to work harder than everybody else. It's a mindset of not having excuses. It's a mindset of being solution orientated versus being problem focused. It's a mindset of learning how to communicate. And there's a lot of great books that I've read throughout the years, and some recommendations would be Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, or How to Win Friends and Influence People, or The Art of Closing. Because in life, you're either growing or you're dying. And your income or your success it's really based on your identity, your standards that you set for yourself. So if you want to make more income, you got to grow your identity. And that's the only way. You only rise up to your identity.
So right now you have no kids. No. But let's think about a future that you have a son and a daughter. Would there be a difference in raising sons that you have and daughters that you have? Is there a difference of bringing them up, or how do you sort of think about that future?
I think parenting will be very different across the board. but I kind of have something in my mind of what I would do. I really believe that, this is just my personal opinion, I really believe the kids today are a lot more fragile per se. And what I mean by that is, growing up, we didn't get participation medals. It's a big topic going on right now, and I don't know if you're for it or against it, but everybody gets participation medals. Everybody has either a pass or a needs improvement grade, or whatever they call it. Growing up, I've always thought you got to learn how to compete. You might not always win, you might lose, but you learn more from your losses than your wins. So if I was to raise a son or a daughter, I would teach them that, hey, if you work hard and you don't give up and you do need to compete, you gotta compete, but don't compare. It makes a lot of difference. So I think our system today is a little bit different. So I would raise them completely different than what the system is today. I would teach them that, hey, you got to be the best version of yourself. You got to improve. You got to not give up. You're going to go through adversity, but adversity, there's a benefit on the other side of it. So having that mindset is so much more important. And I would focus more, like if I had kids, I don't want someone saying, hey, your son or daughter is so smart in school. They got an A+ in history or an A+ in geography. I rather hear things like, your son or daughter, they're such great kids. They're so respectful. They have so much integrity. They're always doing their very best at whatever they're doing, versus than the academics per se, because that will go so much further than just academics. That's my opinion.
Wow, that was good. I don't think I've ever heard anyone say that per se. So I definitely agree with that.
I could go deeper. Like, I just think about how our system now is. I went to a sportings event and there's a team and they lost. Like, I was watching this baseball game, like just kids, and the score was like 18-0. And in baseball, that's a big score. It's like in hockey, 18-0. And everybody got the same medal. And I was like, that's interesting, because there was no winner or loser per se. And yes, you can take that out of context, but a team won and a team technically lost. But everyone got recognized. Everyone got the same medal. There was no, just the coaches didn't care for it. And I was kind of sitting there going like, what are we teaching people, that life is fair? No, life is not fair. All right. There are times where you're going to get hit in the face that you need to learn how to step up. There are times that you are winning, but you don't know why you're winning. And there are times that you're winning and you know exactly why you're winning. So what are we teaching our kids? So that was very interesting to me. So that's not how I would raise the kids.
Yeah, I definitely agree. Yeah, no, that's crazy. Many young professionals want to build wealth, but might have misconceptions about how to get there. From your experience as a wealth coach, what are some common myths or mistakes you see people make when it comes to financial independence and wealth building?
I would say that the most common one I hear all the time is you have to have a lot of money to make money. And that is false. You don't need to have a lot of money to make money. Does it help? Yeah, it does. But it comes with financial discipline. To kind of give you a perspective, we hear this all the time where someone won the lottery, millions of dollars or hundreds of millions of dollars. And we see it with professional athletes as well. They've won 10, 20, 30, 40, $50 million contracts, but a couple years later, they have no more money. They're on food stamps. They're broke. And it's because they have a lack of financial discipline. So what is financial discipline? This is how I was raised. If you don't save money when you don't have money, you won't save money when you have money. So it's just the discipline and the mindset of, why do you need to have a secure future? And to be very honest, in today's generation or society, there's only 3 ways to make a lot of money. Only 3. The first way is real estate, right? Well, to buy real estate in Vancouver is not very easy. So that scratches a lot of people out of that equation. The second way to make a lot of money is in the stock market. Okay, well, you got to know what you're doing in the stock market. And the third way to make a lot of money is you got to be an entrepreneur or be a business owner. Those are the only 3 ways. that I've learned to create a lot of wealth. And money isn't everything, but money gives you a lot of options. So, during whoever wins the election doesn't really matter because you're financially bulletproof. And that's what I encourage everybody is you got to have that mindset that one day, regardless of where you are today, is you want to be financially bulletproof. And I'll give you a good perspective is we all have someone we deeply love or care about. Now, some of us, let's be honest, most of us, we haven't reached our fullest potential in our careers or in our business or in our life per se. Well, you're thinking about yourself. But if you thought one more step above is who can I do it for? Or how can I be in a better position? So the example is very simple. If today the person that you love, could be your mom, your girlfriend, boyfriend, whatever, they came to you and says, I need money for health or whatever. Would you be in a position to stroke them a check for $100,000? And we all want to do it, but we might not be there yet. So that should be enough motivation for you to be financially secure that if God forbid something happened, you're the go-to person. So growing up, I've always wanted to be the go-to person because I saw how much struggle our parents went through. I said they did everything for us and all I can do to repay them back is be in a financial position one day where if they ever came to me and says, hey, mom and dad, we need some money for XYZ treatment or we need money for retirement, I'll be able to support them. And that should be enough motivation. And we all have different reasons of why we do things, but you need to find something that is deep and compelling to you so you can move forward. The other thing you asked was what would I focused on is to make more money is learn sales. You got to learn how to communicate and learn how to sell. So for those of you that are in some sort of sales, I'll give you one tip of advice or one advice. It doesn't matter what you do. Everything is closing. But there are two parameters that you must have when you're closing. The first one is they have to logically agree with what you're proposing. Logically agree or logically accept. Meaning that your facts must be there. You're credible. The product or solution makes sense to them and they mentally agree or logically agree. And the second one is emotionally accept. So if you don't have those two things and emotionally accept is they feel like this is good for them. They can see a future with this product or a future with this solution or a future with this purchase. So those two parameters must be there. And that is all about learning skill set, which is closing. So hopefully that answered your question.
Yes, it did. You, in that sort of answer, you talked about being financially bulletproof. And does that bulletproofness comes back to those three sectors of building wealth, which you've mentioned, but how do people make sure that they're bulletproof so that if anybody gets elected, which we had an election yesterday, you guys didn't know, how can they make sure that that wealth doesn't go away just like that?
Yeah, so if you think about, let's say, elections, the election doesn't affect me whatsoever. The cost of living doesn't affect me whatsoever. Meaning financially bulletproof is you make money, you save and stack money, and that your investments are now, or your dividends per se, or your rental income per se, is enough to cover your monthly expenses. I'll give you an idea. Imagine if today you're making $3,000 per month at your job, and then your cost or your living expenses is $2,900. Well, if the cost went up, then you're in the red. Now, the flip side, what if you actually invested time? And everybody has time. 9 to 5 is, so they say 9 to 5 pays your bill, 5 to 9 builds your legacy or builds your future. What do we do between 5 to 9 to increase our skill set or to increase our thought process or to learn a new skill to make more income? So where I was getting at is if you're making $3,000 per month, yeah, you'll be affected. But what if you're making $30,000 per month or $50,000 per month or $100,000 per month? Does it bother you? No. But here's the question. A lot of now here the viewers and people always say, okay, Victor, I'm making $3,000 per month. 30,000? How is that even possible? Well, there are people that make $30,000 a month. There are people that make $30,000 a week. So don't tell me it's not impossible. It's possible. But are you willing to go out of your way or out of your comfort zone to seek knowledge, to learn, to put away that little thing in your head that says it's not possible? Because if some can, why not you? So it's a mindset. All right. When I saw other people making 50 grand a month or 70 grand a month or 100 grand a month, I was like, how's that possible? And then instead of asking, how is that possible? I said, let me go ask them what I need to do so that I can be in that position too. And that's what I did. Just copy, right? It's okay to be a copycat. Just copy the right cat.
Exactly. I couldn't agree more. As a financial advisor, you emphasize informed decision-making and good money habits. Could you share a few practical wealth-building habits, money hacks? I think you sort of touched on that, which is sort of like seeking knowledge. But is there some other ones that comes to mind? I mean, everything really boils down to seeking knowledge and working hard.
I think in our industry it's actually to get ahead is not that difficult. It's you got to manage your expenses for a short period of time. You got to make sure you have, if you have high interest consumer debts, you want to consolidate your debts. And once you free up more money, I talk about it like building a house. You have your roof, you have your pillars, and you have your foundation. The problem is most of us, we have our bank person, we have our insurance person, we have our investment advisor or mortgage professional, and none of them talk to each other. So for what I want to do is I want to have a holistic approach, and I start with your foundation first. What is a good foundation? Well, it's proper protection. If I got sick, and unfortunately this is sad nowadays, that 1 in 2 Canadians will get diagnosed with a critical illness. 1 in 2. If that happened to me today, I'm no longer working. How am I going to survive? So I want to make sure I have the right insurance in place. What if I rolled my ankle, or when you're playing tennis or later, what if you rolled your ankle and you can't walk for a couple of months? It's going to affect your ability to earn income. Well, then the foundation needs to be there. Then we talk about the pillars of wealth. And those are different accounts you can use to save and accumulate money in Canada. For those of you in Canada, you have your tax-free savings account, you have FHSAs, RRSPs, all these different acronyms, but a lot of people don't know what they do or what they are. So they got to figure out which pillar makes sense for you. Then you got the roof of your house is really for estate planning, for preparing for the future. So some financial principles is you must know what you don't know, right? And you got to ask, seek knowledge. It's the most important thing. And there's so much resource nowadays. There's Google, there's YouTube, there's social media. It's not that you lack resource. Everybody has the same resource, is you lack resourcefulness. You're not willing to go out there, out of your way to learn a new skill because it's uncomfortable, it's unknown. And one thing about me is I'm not afraid to look stupid or look dumb. I will ask and seek questions or ask mentors or people that are far more successful than me. And there's no such thing as a dumb question. You'll be all surprised that individuals that are high achievers, they want to give back and help others. Most self-made high achievers or just high achievers in general, they want to give back because they know how it is when they didn't have money. I know how it was when I didn't have $200 in my bank account. But all my friends are still going to the nightclub or the lounges. And I would be sipping that same $8 beer for the 4 hours because I didn't have any money. But so I know where most people come from, but they're just either too embarrassed to go ask. But to be very honest, what's there to be embarrassed about? We all want one thing, and that one thing is very common, is we all want financial independence. We all want freedom of time and money. We all want to do whatever we want to do, whenever we want to do it, with whoever we want, without someone putting their thumbs on us. So we all want the same things. And I think that if you have that mindset that I just got to go out of my ways to ask for help, you'd be surprised. People are willing to spend time.
For yourself personally, do you prioritize investing in real estate or stocks or going the entrepreneurship route? Which of the three for yourself personally do you think makes more sense?
The one that makes the most sense out of all three will make money. But the number one investment you can ever make is in yourself. So anytime I have the opportunity to invest money to attend a conference, to network, to fly somewhere, to attend anything, I will invest in myself because I want to learn from people that are successful in that field. And unfortunately, social media, you don't know who is successful, who's real or who's not, right? So for me, I've always believed that everyone can bring value into your life, and your job is to pick and choose what aligns to you, and then you apply those same principles that got them successful into your life and into your business, depending on what field you're in. I'm pretty confident that if you put me in real estate as an example, as a realtor, I'll probably figure it out and how I could become one of the best realtors in Vancouver. If you told me I could start a business in the restaurant industry, I know nothing about restaurants, but success leaves clues. There's all successful people have the same mindset. They just, how do you apply it into your practice or into your field? That makes a big difference. So, yeah. So I'd say investing in yourself.
Number one.
Yeah. Investing in yourself, scaling a business is very important as well. Like in my field is, yes, I'm a financial professional, financial broker, but by myself, I can only do so much. In order for me to make more income or to have a bigger reach, I must have a bigger team. And in order for me to have a bigger team, I need to train and develop individuals that can get the same results as me, able to communicate a message, able to help navigate a client's expectations, helping them put together a financial plan. So scaling business is very important. Kind of the analogy is, best way to think of it is McDonald's, right? They have a very scalable business. They don't have the best burgers, but they feed half of the people around the world because they have locations everywhere. Well, they have more of a reach than if I open my own burger joint because they have a system. And if you want to be successful in anything, you must have systems in place. And systems really stand for save yourself time, energy, and money. Why would you want to reinvent? Why would you want to reinvent something when it's already there? Well, there's systems already there. You just have to go out there and find it and apply it.
How do you go about communicating with your team? Because you've mentioned you have a team currently. Is there any principles that go around, like maybe motivating them, or how does your system work around scaling your own business currently?
Yeah. So when it comes to building a team, one of the most important things is your team buying into the vision. What is the vision for 2025? What is your goal for 2025 collectively? And the vision needs to be big enough where your entire team can fit into it. What I mean by that is if my vision was I want to make a 6-figure income. Okay, that's my vision, for example. But what if I have somebody else that wants to make a 6-figure income? Well, then my vision's too small. And once you have a big enough vision where everybody can fit into, then you have to have people buy into the vision. What do I mean by that? The team's goal is bigger than the individual's goal. And everything you do or don't do affects you, but it affects everyone around you. Is the mentality that team needs to have. We don't win unless you don't win, or I don't win unless we all win, right? So teamwork is very, very important. And you'll find that your own goals get accomplished faster the moment you think about your team more than yourself. So everything I do, I always think about what is in the best interest of the clients and prospects, what is in the best interest of the organization, and then myself is always last. So there's a great book from a guy named Simon Sinek, and he talked about why leaders eat last. So if you're in a team environment, you guys start thinking about, what can I do to help my team, right? How do you eat last and let your team go first? Because the team's goal is more important than your own goal. There is not one person that is bigger than the team. That includes myself, right? So that's how teamwork. You think about basketball too. You think about any championship team, whatever that team is. It's not one great player. Every player has a role on that team. Every player knows what they can contribute, where their role is, and they play their role to their fullest potential. Could you imagine in basketball if all 5 players on the court are all shooters and they're all ball hog? You're not going to have it. Who's going to rebound? Who's going to pass? Who's going to do the dirty work that nobody wants to do? No one. So the team is very important, and they all have one goal in mind, is to win a championship team. And that is why you see in sports all the time where you could bring in 3, 4, 5 superstar basketball players, basketball or hockey, onto one team, and they don't make it out of the playoffs, or they don't make the playoffs, or they struggle. It's because they don't know their roles. It's because their own goal is bigger than the team's goal.
Wow. That was amazing. I can see from our conversation that you hold this very strong mindset. And I wanted to ask you this, is that, are your parents entrepreneurs as well? Or how did you find that drive initially when you were obviously sipping the beer for like 4 hours? Where did that trigger happen?
Yeah, so before the financial industry, my parents, they were entrepreneurs. And growing up, my dad ran a computer business, and my mom helped them out in the computer business. And they had warehouses or offices across Canada and in Dubai. So growing up, my mom was the one that kind of took care of the home. My dad was the one that would travel a lot. And then in 2002, they called it the dot-com crisis. 9/11 hit, and all of a sudden, that industry was no longer, computer business was no longer needed per se, because everyone's focused on going to war, that kind of stuff. Where now you have big companies like your Dell computers, your Apples, and so forth, really monopolize that marketplace. So why do I bring that up to your attention is because I saw them work Monday to Sunday. I saw what it took to become successful. I remember my dad, he showed me a paycheck when I was very young, and I didn't know what that meant at that time. Because growing up, I thought $1 million is a lot of money. And it is a lot of money per se, right? But I thought $1 million was something else. Like when I was growing up, I thought $1 million buys you like a mansion with like swimming pool and tennis court and this and that. And $1 million in Vancouver buys you like a 2-bedroom condo. So he showed me one day where he made $1 million in a day. And I was like, whoa. And I didn't know what that meant when I was so young, but now I know. And I looked at his work ethics, his discipline, and what they had to do what they have to do to get to where they are was a turning point. But what made me decide to do what I do today, it's imagine you have everything in your life and all of a sudden you don't have everything. So imagine you have multiple cars and all of a sudden you don't have those multiple cars. Imagine you had a nanny or a housekeeper and all of a sudden you don't have a nanny or a housekeeper or a cleaner per se. So that's what happened to us. So we had everything we that we needed, and all of a sudden you're like, why did our life change so much? And that's when I realized that when that happened, a lot of people lost their businesses or lost a lot of money during that period of time. And what turned for me was, could you imagine you see your parents very, very successful, and all of a sudden you see them waiting at the bus stop? What would that do to you as you're, figuring out your life? You would be like, okay, that is why I need to do what I need to do. And that is why I need to become successful, because I never want to see my mom or dad wait at a bus stop. So that should be enough motivation for anybody to go to work. So I don't need to be motivated to go to work. I will go to work because I've always told myself that I will be that go-to person, that I will one day be bulletproof, that if something or somebody needed some money or financial support, they can turn to me and I'll be like, hey, I got you. So that should be enough motivation. Totally off topic, but
No, it's great. I'm gonna ask some philosophical questions now.
okay.
What challenges you? Really, in anywhere, it's like something you haven't figured out yet. You've been trying to, it just keeps challenging you.
Every day is a challenge. The more income you make, the more challenges you'll face. And you have to accept that. The more people you manage, the bigger the team, the bigger the problems. So now you have to think about, why are you getting these challenges? They say every adversity has a seed of greater or equal benefit if only you look for it. When you have adversity or challenges in your life, you can either sweep it under the rug or you can face it head first. A lot of challenges that I have today is I don't know how to handle it. But in my mind, if it's a bad thing, I've learned this concept of I'm going to claim 10 folds in return, whatever that challenge or problem is. So a challenge to me, they say a setback just leads to a greater comeback. I embrace challenges. I love challenges. Why? It's because challenges tells me I'm one step closer toward my goal. If you're not getting challenges, if you're not getting setbacks, you're not doing enough. All right. And you think about, and growing up, I didn't understand this concept. I thought, man, I'm getting rejected. People are turning me down. Why is it so hard? And then someone said, dude, have you ever watched a movie where there was no challenges and the whole movie was like positive and the movie ended? And I was like, no, it probably was a shitty movie. And then I realized that challenges are part of the journey. It's just that you got to think of this analogy. Things don't happen to you. They happen for you. So when I get a challenge, I go like, what can I learn from this challenge? Why am I getting this challenge? And what does it mean for me versus why is it happening to me? So I don't really think of challenges as challenges. I think of them more of like a detour, right? So when you get like a rejection, in business, you're going to get rejections. You think about any business, realtors, you get tons of rejections. Business owners, tons of rejections. Even when you ask people to hop on a podcast, some of them says, you're too small. I'm not going to hop on your podcast. But you could either take it as a rejection and be like, oh, this is not for me. Or you could treat rejections as redirection. It redirects you to somebody else. It redirects you to something else. And that's why you're at where you're at today. So challenges is good. Embrace it.
With the role of AI and like these buzzwords, machine learning, and what the future is inevitably going to look like, how will that impact your business and how do you see that going about the future?
Yeah, AI is the future. I love it. And the reason why I love it is it makes things faster, better, more efficient for me. Prior to, let's say, ChatGPT or OpenAI or these programs that we have, it'll take me half an hour to an hour to draft up an email. Now I could do an email in 5 minutes, right? So that helps me. In terms of our line of work, does it help? It does help. The reason for that is because it makes things faster and more efficient. But one thing doesn't change. People want to talk to a person when it comes to their money and finance. One thing AI doesn't have is it doesn't have the emotional factor of it. We all know when the stock market came down the last couple of weeks where there's a 15-20% correction and you go ask AI, hey AI, what's happening? They'll give you an AI response. But they don't have that human touch or that human feel. So in our industry, our line of work, we deal with people's future, people's money. So there'll always be the emotional connection of understanding what people need and how they can navigate their emotions. Everybody knows buy low, sell high. Everybody knows that. But when the market is coming down 15-20%, your emotions are no longer, like your emotions just, it overtakes your logic. So we have to kind of bring people back to principles that this has happened before. This will happen again. When the pandemic stopped, emotions took over. How many people went to the grocery store to hoard toilet paper? Well, what was the reason for that? It's emotions, right? Out of all the things you can go hoard, you hoarded toilet papers. It makes zero sense, right? So things will go by, and AI is actually a good thing. It's something that you can't stop. Now, there are a lot of spaces or industries that will be affected by AI. And we start to see that right now where AI could replace clerks, right? Like grocery clerks. You see that already, self-checkout stations. At some banks, you see the iPad stations instead of the teller, right? Automation systems for telecommunications. So there is a place for AI, but there's a lot of industries that will thrive with AI. Like my business exploded because of the pandemic. And the reason for that is because I no longer have to drive 1 or 2, 3 hours to a client meeting. I can hop on a Zoom call. So you could either see it as a challenge, or you could see what can I do differently? And then because of Zoom, instead of doing 1 meeting in 3 hours, I could do 3 meetings in 3 hours. And I could do it across the country and into the US. So that opened another doorway for me, per se.
Yes. I'm guessing right now you are quite successful, that you are that guy that people can rely on, as you've mentioned previously. But following that, what still motivates you? What keeps you up at night that like, hey, I got to keep doing what I'm doing, even though, you're driving a very nice car, and what keeps motivating you?
Yeah, I think for me is I know how it is to be broke. I know how it is to start a business. And the thing that motivates me the most is not money, right? It's not I need to make more money. It's I want to go help others accomplish their goals and their dreams. I want to have a bigger vision, per se. Is I've learned that if you help enough people get to where they want to go, you'll get to where you want to go. Right? So let's say, for example, if I can help 10 people make a 6-figure income, well, that is more rewarding to me than anything else. So what motivates me is how can I be a better communicator? How can I be a better leader? How can I be? How can I transfer my skill set to them? How can I help them become more effective closers? How can I help them find better clients, or whatever it is? How can I help them? How can I transform someone from an employee mindset to an entrepreneurial mindset, right? And that takes time. So it doesn't just switch all of a sudden you become successful. It takes days, weeks, months, years of personal development. The person you see me today is not how I started. 12 years ago, I was shy. I couldn't speak. I didn't want to do this industry. I never thought about being a business owner, but someone mentored me. Multiple mentors mentored me, and they shaped my mindset. And we've heard this before, that you are the 5 people that you surround yourself with. If you hang out with 5 very high achievers, successful individuals, you'll probably be the 6th. But if you hang out with 5 individuals that are partying all the time, just partying all the time, you're probably going to end up partying with them. Now, there's nothing wrong with partying, but is that the life that you want? So who you surround yourself with is very, very important. So for me, is I want to be, hopefully people see me as that person where when I meet them or see them or hang around them, is I bring their identity up. I make them think differently, so then they can go out there and accomplish more things. So that's what motivates me.
What are some elements that go into being a better communicator? I've noticed you are a great communicator, and so far, like, probably one of the best guests I've ever had. So what sort of like key principles do you follow for being the best communicator that you can be?
Yeah. I think communication, I'm like, appreciate that comment, by the way, but there's a lot that I can still work on. But one thing about communication is you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. You want to use them accordingly. So you got to listen more than you speak. Have you ever met someone on a podcast or an interview where they would answer your question before you even finish your question?
I've actually never. I'm lucky to. That would be sort of annoying.
Yeah, it would be very annoying. So those are things that are very important. And when it comes to communication, it's not about you, right? It's not about how good you sound or how good you look. It's really about the other person. All right, it's about the other person. So a great book to read would be, for communication point of view, is How to Win Friends and Influence People. That would be a good place to start. I've always asked people this. When you're in business, what is more important, likability or trust? What would you say? Likability or trust in business? If you had to guess.
I mean, I would definitely have to say trust.
So out of 100 people, 100 people will say trust. But how do you build trust? Trust takes time. For example, when I first came here, what's more important, likability or trust? Well, it comes to likability. If you don't like somebody, you're not going to have time to build trust. So how do you become more likable is very important. A better analogy is, let's say you're on a date with a girl or a guy, like whatever, right? And you're in a date now. The person that you're dating for the very first time, they don't say, "Oh, I trust this guy, let's go out." They say, "I like this guy because of maybe how he dresses or how he talks or his charisma or whatever." And that trust takes time to develop. So communication is also like that as well. It's about being more likable, listening more, understanding what they need, and then learning how to transfer your message is very important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's there's these skills that we've been talking about, like they're lifelong. You just keep getting better and better, and you're never just stop learning. That's what it comes down to. And lastly, what do you think is the meaning of life?
What do I think is the meaning of life? Elaborate on your question a little bit more, so then I will give you because that could mean a lot of things.
Yeah, it is not an easy question, but sort of right now we are on a, I don't know, space rock in the middle of space, and it may be infinite and there may be parallel universes as quantum has potentially proven. What's the meaning of all this if we're sort of like a dot in nothingness and sway away in like 13.8 billion years? And what do you think about that?
I think from my point of view, the meaning of life is really finding out what you're capable of, being the best version of yourself, striving for more. I think that I meet a lot of people, and it's unfortunate that a lot of people settled. And I look at people and I think about, man, you have so many gifts and talents that you haven't discovered yet. The best version of you is not here yet. So the meaning of life to me is I want to find out what is that version. How is, like when you're like on your deathbed or you go to heaven or whatever religion you believe in and you're up there, I hope the person goes like, man, you met yourself. You met the best version of yourself. You became the best version of yourself. That's what I think the meaning of life is always striving to be better, better in business, better family man, better spouse, better son, daughter, just better people. And that's what I strive to do. Is the meaning of life for me is how can I be the best version of Victor Wong? How can I add value to others so then they can live a more fulfilled life? Because right now, you think about the world, there's a lot of people struggling, right? There's a lot of people struggling with mental illnesses, and we've seen what happened the other day. We see people struggle financially. We see people struggle emotionally. We see people struggle in relationships. Well, why is all this stuff happening? It's because people stop growing. They stop asking for help, or our system there's not a support system to go help them. So if I can be a beacon of hope where someone can turn to me and be like, hey, I need your guidance for XYZ. Well, hopefully I get them closer to their best version of themselves. So that's kind of how I would answer that question.
Victor, it was fantastic speaking to you.
Yeah, anytime.
And I hope all the best in your future endeavors.
Yeah, and just want to congratulate you and the viewers. It takes a lot of courage to start something like this, but you guys are doing good things and getting the message across. And all the individuals that have spoken on your podcast is we all bring different perspectives. We all bring different values, and it's just a message or an avenue where people can learn, absorb, and like I said, find out what the best version for them is and grow. So it's good. It's good stuff.
Amazing. Thank you very much. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time. Thanks for sticking with us till the end. If you've enjoyed the episode, don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss out on any future insights. Check out the videos on the screen right now for more thought-provoking discussions. Your support means the world to us.